Imagine you are the CEO of a globally famous, wildly successful company. Your products, let's say perfectly crafted textiles and precious gems, are demanded all over the world. Your company is self-sufficient, wealthy, and stable. Then, a rival corporation forcibly takes over your company. But they don't want to run it. They want to gut it. They fire all your skilled craftsmen, dismantle your factories, and force your remaining workers to just dig dirt out of the ground to supply their factories back home. That is the exact story of the Indian economy under British colonial rule. Before the British arrived, India was an absolute economic powerhouse. We were famous globally for our spectacular handicraft industries, especially our cotton and silk textiles. The muslin from Dhaka was considered the ultimate luxury material worldwide. But the British didn't want India to be a competitor. They wanted India to be a giant captive farm. Their strategy was brutal and simple: systematic deindustrialization. First, they forced the collapse of India's world-famous handicraft industries. This put millions of skilled artisans completely out of work. Second, because India no longer made its own goods, the British used India as a massive dumping ground, forcing Indians to buy cheap, machine-made goods imported straight from Britain. This meant that almost the entire population, about 85%, was forced back into agriculture just to survive. But the British didn't want them growing food. They introduced the zamindari system, where greedy landlords squeezed every last drop of rent from the farmers, leaving the actual cultivators starving and with zero money to invest in basic farming technology. Worse, the British forced Indian farmers to switch to cash crops like cotton and indigo. Why? Because British factories desperately needed those raw materials. They turned India into a giant supply chain for the British Industrial Revolution. Now, you might be thinking, but didn't the British build our infrastructure? Didn't they give us the railways and the telegraph? Yes, they did. But they didn't do it out of the goodness of their hearts. They built roads not to connect villages, but to quickly move their armies to crush rebellions. They introduced the railways in 1850 not so Indians could go on vacation, but to quickly suck raw materials out of the deep rural areas and transport them to the ports to be shipped to England. They built the expensive telegraph system entirely to maintain strict law, order, and control over their captive population. This systematic draining of India's wealth had a catastrophic impact on the people. By the time we hit the year of the Great Divide in 1921, the social indicators were horrifying. The overall literacy rate was under 16%, with female literacy sitting at an abysmal 7%. Public health was practically non-existent. The infant mortality rate was a staggering 218 deaths per 1,000 births. And the average life expectancy for an Indian citizen? Just 32 years old. While British ledgers showed a massive export surplus for India, none of that money actually stayed in the country. The British used that wealth to pay for their own colonial offices in London and to fund their global wars. By the time India finally tore itself free and achieved independence in 1947, the damage was apocalyptic. Our world-class industries were gone. Our agriculture was completely stagnant and broken. Our people were trapped in massive, widespread poverty and unemployment. For over 2 centuries, the British had squeezed the sponge completely dry. Understanding this brutal history isn't just about looking at the past. It is absolutely crucial for realizing just how far the Indian economy had to climb and just how much we have achieved over the last 75 years of freedom.